India was something who was not familiar with the concept of co-working.
If you really look at the whole journey of the Indian commercial real estate market, right? The large corporates always had their teams that were able to get them established into large established buildings, right? Co-working had started taking off. So we looked at AWFIS, which is basically the thesaurus pronunciation of office, right? And office.com was available for 1.2 lakh rupees, so that's how the name came about, and it now stands for awesomeness. It's very unique because in India what you're solving for is very different than what we solve in the developed economy.
Now, if your office is not that swanky, stylish, you easily don't get the talent, especially with the coming generation Gen Z who are getting into their work life. So, do you think aesthetic, the word, it really matters in terms of being the environment of office, how the workplace should be?
So, Gunjan, I think clearly it's been proven through the years that there are various reasons why people come to work. So, we firmly believe that all of this, the workplace plays a huge role.
Alright. With office, the word is there flexibility. And flexibility is a buzzword today. So, do you think this trend is shaping the industry?
So clearly flexibility, we in fact co-working is also called flex spaces nowadays, right? So it becomes...
If you have ever worked in a flexible co-working space, chances are you have heard of Office. Hello and welcome to this special edition of Republic Business. I'm your host Kunjan Rajput. Today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Amit Ramani. He is the MD and Chairman of Office Space Solutions. Hello Amit, it's great to have you with us on Republic Media Network.
Thank you Gunjan, good to be here.
So, sir, let's begin where it all started. You started in 2015 and now we're here in 2025, a journey of decade. So, how this journey has been for you?
So, Gunjan, the journey, obviously, I think it's been a dream run. Honestly, when we started the co-working business, the business by itself, the sector did not exist. 2015, there were very few co-working operators. Globally, yes, there were a few others, but in India, we were one of the pioneers in this space. And to start something from an Indian context, an indigenous company that was able to establish a complete industry in the country. We were one of the first publicly listed companies, right, in the world to successfully go, hit an IPO. So I think from that perspective, a lot of obviously challenges during the opportunities and challenges, but I think the outcome has been great and could not have asked for a better run on this.
So, like you already mentioned that when you started, India was something who was not familiar with the concept of co-working. How did you get that concept, especially in India, and now you are expanding into tier 2 cities as well? So, how did you get the concept? Like, what challenges were there back then?
So if you really look at the whole journey of the Indian commercial real estate market, right? The large corporates always had their teams that were able to get them established into large established buildings, right? And clearly, if you look at the whole sector, the sector was primarily focused from the IT sector, which was IT offshoring that was happening in India, and that's where this whole sector started taking off. Even today, 40% of spaces are taken up with the IT sector. So as India started growing, the SME and the mid-corporate started growing in size, right? I mean, if you look at today, there might be 7,000 companies listed on NSE, but there are millions of SMEs in this country, and there was no ability for them to get good workplace infrastructure at an affordable price. Even if they could afford it, the floor plates and the buildings were such that a 50,000 square foot floor plate could not be cut to, let's say, 3,000 square feet for a small SME. So when we started, we kind of looked at three things. One, people wanted flexibility, right? There's uncertainty in our businesses today, so I can't give a lock-in of 5 to 6 years. So flexibility is what we offered. You want one seat or you want 100, your choice. You want it for a day or you want it for 5 years, your choice. Second was accessibility. If you really look at it, even before COVID, commute times are increasing in this country, and commute times basically are there because your home is somewhere else and your office is somewhere else, right? So we said, why don't we create a network where our office is available within 15-20 minute driving radius across the 7 metros? I'm glad to report that we've been able to do it. And the final piece is ease of use. Anybody who's even done their own home understands it's complicated to first find a designer, then a contractor, then a maintenance agency. So we said for under, let's say, 15-20 seats, we should have ready to move infrastructure. And so on that premise, we started the journey. And I think that's what we solved for in India. And today, glad to report that we are the largest when it comes to the network. 200 plus locations that are live today as we speak. Close to about 125,000 seats that are live today across 19 cities and 57 micro markets. So I think it's been a great journey that was built on very basic principles of what we were solving for in India. Now today on the demand side, if you really look at it, we have almost 65% of our clients are corporates. Almost other 25 odd percent are SMEs and mid corporates, and about 10% are startups and freelancers.
So, the first thing I want to ask, what exactly sparked the idea of office in general? Uh, Did you get an idea from somewhere else, or it was just a random thought? Yet, do you want to do something like this?
So, Gunjan, I had spent between 1997 and 2008, I was in the US. I was working in the design and real estate strategy space. So, we understood the principles of workplace, principles of real estate, principles of design, planning, workplace strategy. All of this was very familiar. Then I decided to come back to India in 2008. We started a design and build practice in the commercial interior design space. So, we understood the whole space really well. And I was on one of my visits to the US, and I always to make it a point to look at the workplace and new trends in workplace that were happening. And co-working had started taking off. It was somewhere in the late 2008-9 timeframe that the co-working concept started coming up. So in 2014, I went and visited a place called 1871 in Chicago, where large corporates, mid corporates, SMEs, and startups all were coexisting in an ecosystem. And they were basically learning from each other, right? The large corporate from the startup and startup from the large corporate. And I said, this is a great concept because now you have an ecosystem that has been created where everybody is learning from each other, and the workplace becomes the kind of the enabler for all of this. So I said, well, this could be something that's great, could potentially work in India. And I, on the flight back from US, wrote the paper business plan. In fact, even today, I have that business plan, and it had all the pieces that we have done in the last 10 years at that stage. But the basic premise was you were solving for a very, very key need, which was quality infrastructure for, at that point, the SMEs and the mid corporates of the country, which were basically relegated to what I would say substandard infrastructure at that place. So we were trying to solve for that. And then the whole idea of, we wanted to keep a name that was, essentially one could recall easily, right? So we wanted, 4, 5, 6 letters maximum. And I went and looked at office.com, office.com. And it was for $15 million, right, available. And we were a bootstrapped startup, and obviously we didn't have this kind of money. So we looked at AWFIS, which is basically the thesaurus pronunciation of office, right? And office.com was available for 1.2 lakh rupees. So that's how the name came about. And it's now stands for awesomeness, right? So today, that's what we believe in, to give an awesome experience to our customers and that come in.
So it's like fair to say that it's a creative name, but yet still rooted in the traditional values of being office.
Absolutely. It's all about giving, the great customer experience, having a workplace infrastructure that's best in class, and then obviously delivering awesomeness.
All right. So you spoke about what exactly your customer base is as of now. But do you think larger enterprises are also shifting towards it?
So, Gunjan, it's interesting. Pre-COVID, we used to be tilted towards SMEs, mid-corporates, and freelancers, taking almost 60-65% of our space. The enterprises or large corporates were about 30-35%. Post-COVID, enterprises came into this space in a big way. And they basically said, well, we will do this because of flexibility, speed, and distributed work, right? And these three reasons drove the enterprises to adopt co-working. And today, 65% of our business comes from large corporates and enterprises, right? And 23 comes from mid-size and SMEs, and about 10% from freelancers and startups.
All right. So metros now, it's been a decade and more companies are coming. Metros are still very familiar with the concept of co-working in general. But when you expand to tier 2 cities, what are the challenges that you face there compared to the metros?
So, see, demand drives, co-working in any city, right? And
Yeah.
if you really look at it, the top, I would say, large corporate occupiers, which ITS is a big part of it, BFSI, pharma. These are all adopters of co-working. They are not only adopters of co-working in tier 1, but they are also adopters in tier 2 cities. Hence, they are being driven in that area. In terms of, if you were to look at today, this whole GCC space, right? It's not only in the tier 1 cities these GCCs are being set up, they are being set up in tier 2 cities as well. Now, the challenges of tier 2 cities is quality supply. Because the move happened very rapidly, a lot of that supply is not available. Hence, the demand is there, but the quality supply is not available. I think that's one of the biggest challenges.
All right. And where do you see in India the flexible working space is heading?
So, Gunjan, in terms of, when we started in the industry, right? In fact, in the first 5 years of the journey till about 2020, March 2020, when COVID hit, we were a 25 million square foot industry, right? Since then, almost in 5 years, we are today touching almost 75 million, right? So we are almost 3 times the size. Predictions are that in the next 3 years, we should cross 125 odd million square feet. So very, very bullish on the space. This past year, FY25 was almost complete. The gross leasing was almost 77 million square feet, of which 15 million was co-working. So almost roughly 20%. Last 4 quarters has been absorption has been from co-working. So I am obviously a bit biased because I sit in the space, but I think the adoption is here to stay. And it's very unique because in India, what you're solving for is very different than what we solve in the developed economy. In India, you are solving for creating a workplace infrastructure that is of grade A quality, ready to move in, and at an affordable price. In the developed markets, those constraints don't exist. So I think in India and developing markets, this is here to stay.
I feel when we talk about India in general, the price things come in mind, whether it's any business. So where do you put up with that price part in your company?
So Gunjan, when we started, you absolutely, hit the nail. That clearly value, is important, right? I mean, that's why there is an HDFC Bank. That's why there is a Maruti Suzuki. We as Indians value, right, what we buy, and we are willing to pay a price, but we need to feel like we get a value out of it. So when we started our original office product, which is our flagship product, and probably out of the close to about 200 plus centers, almost about 180 odd centers are what we call as our office flagship product. Average price is about 8.5 to 9,000 rupees a seat per month, right? It ranges from 6,000 to about 11,000, but that's the average. Then a few years back, in 2021, we launched Office Gold, which is the next premium product, right? So, which is about 20-25% more expensive, and essentially is about currently, we have 15 of these centers currently. Then we launched about a couple of months back, Elite, and that's our most premium product, which basically we currently have 2 operational, and we will have another 3-4 operational in the next few months. So about 85% portfolio is flagship, so 9,000 bucks a seat. The gold is about 12,000 and roughly Elite is about 15,000. So think of it like a Toyota Corolla, a Toyota Camry, and a Lexus, all existing. So today what we are able to do is we have a multi-tiered product, so we can give you every product type. Because we have the network, we have 200 plus locations across 19 plus cities, we are able to address every single demand, 1 seat or 1,000 seats.
So back then, office were used to be a traditional cubicles. Now, if your office is not that swanky, stylish, you easily don't get the talent, especially with the coming generation, Gen Z, who are getting into their work life. So, do you think aesthetic, the word, it really matters in terms of being the environment of office, how the workplace should be?
So, Gunjan, I think clearly it's been proven through the years that there are various reasons why people come to work, right? It could be because of your manager, it could be because of your colleagues, it could be because of your work, it could be because of comp. Workplace has always been in the top 5 reasons why people come to work, and especially in this post-COVID era when people for months were working from home, right? It kind of got the whole idea that you have to come to work to be productive was out of the window. Now, to that end, if you want to bring people to work, you have to create an environment that will make me travel that hour and a half each day to make it such one is aesthetics. Second, it has to feel welcoming. Third, it has to have some amenities which I don't get at home. And then obviously it has to have a collaborative environment where I can engage with my colleagues, because the social connect is the reason that I'm coming. Otherwise, I can do it on Zoom, right? So we firmly believe that all of this, the workplace plays a huge role. And we at Office believe that our workplaces are such that they can compete with any large organization's workspace. In fact, better than most organizations' workspaces is we want to deliver the amenities, the experiences, the community engagement that we do with our team, with our community members. I think is a large part of why people come to Office.
There's a whole, like, from past 1 year and last month, there was a whole debate about the work-life balance. So do you think if you add these community events and other games and these sort of amenities in an office workplace, it helps in the work-life balance being in office as well?
See, Gunjan, we are firm believers of work-life balance or work-life harmony, right? I mean, clearly, I think productivity is a direct outcome of this kind of a balance, right? Now, the realities, but we can't change the realities of where we are today. Infrastructure is a challenge, hence commute times are long. People have less and less time available because our lives have become very busy. You're engaged in social media, you have your phone distraction, etc., etc. All put together, what we can do is to be able to provide such engagements at the right points, right? So, for example, we offer breakfast in our locations today. Why do we offer breakfast? Because people can leave a bit early, have breakfast at our location, but reduce the commute time, right? Or we have snacks that they can carry back home so that they don't have to go back and cook. We do engagement events in our centers so that that extra, engagement that somebody wants to have some relaxation time can happen in the center. We do what's called Office Premier League. So we do these kind of activities to create a holistic experience for our community members.
With office, the word is there flexibility. And flexibility is a buzzword today. So do you think this trend is shaping the industry?
So clearly flexibility, we in fact co-working is also called flex spaces nowadays, right? So it become part and parcel of our name. So flexibility is a large reason why the industry exists, right? Because otherwise the conventional leases were so inflexible. That's on the back of which this industry got created. So flexibility is here to stay and is the hallmark of what we do as an industry.
All right. So you were the first company that got listed from the co-working space, and in just 9 years, and great achievement. So how was that exactly, and what decision was in your mind that now it's time for us to go list, like, for an IPO?
So, Gunjan, I think, as a first generation entrepreneur, you have to lean on your partners such as the venture capitalists and, private equity funds that help you through your journey. And clearly, they are investing in the team, they're investing in the business model, they're investing in the execution capability, but ultimately, they're investing for an exit, right? Let's all be honest. So from that end, the IPO world was the ultimate culmination for us because we were fortunate enough to have Peak 15 erstwhile, Sequoia and Chris Capital and a few large family offices such as Dalmia Bharat, Havells, SRF and Jubilant backing us. And to that end, it was our fiduciary responsibility to get them an exit. And the only exit that is tangible is an IPO. So I think that was one key reason that we wanted to give back to our shareholders who had supported us through the journey. Second, a private company ESOP, right, has very limited value, right? The employee can only get an exit when the company goes public. There is real value, right? So I mean, we had 120 people who went when we went public had currency in their pocket. Some of them made 1x to 50x their yearly salary. A lot of gratification from that standpoint. And then finally, I think there was some joy of being the first indigenous company to successfully go public in the co-working space in the whole world, a company from India doing it. So I think all of these reasons kind of drove us to it. And I think we had a very, very successful listing. We were 108 times oversubscribed. For 3 days, we had 66,000 crores in our bank account for 600 crore IPO. And we had a large anchor book and which continues to support us. So I think very blessed to be able to do that.
In general, so a lot of startups are going for public, being an IPO. What is your view on that?
See, your reasons of going public have to be very clear, right? The other piece that we were very clear on before we went public, we were very clear that we will become a profitable company. And as you can see in our results, Q3 results, which are available on the internet, we have maintained profitability since last quarter of FY24, and was very clear that we have to bring profitability to the core. We needed to be continue to grow at a fast pace, right? So what were those anchors or channels that we could leverage and do that? We also needed to build on what our success was as a private company. So as a public company, obviously, you can do a lot many things, but also you're constrained by doing a lot more experimentation, right? So I think we were ready. We got ourselves ready to go public. I think my advice to companies would be know the reasons why you want to go public. Public and private markets are completely different. Understand what it is and practice about a year before you hit the public markets to behave as a public company, even if you are a private company.
All right. So if we just talk, let's just go to the numbers. In quarter three, you showed a remarkable 44% revenue growth. So what was the key driver behind this strong financial performance?
So, Gunjan, I think, one of the key parts that we were very clear before, we went public was to be able to understand our numbers well and be able to have predictability of numbers. So to that end, what we had done even before we went public, we had established the team. So for example, before going public, a few months before, till almost 6 months before going public, we used to sell about 3,000 new seats every month. Today we touch about 5,000 every month, right? So we increased our sales team, right? Before. We also needed to have the supply with us. So we needed the seats with us, because if I have a seat, then I can potentially fill it. So we increased our supply team. So we put all the blocks in place that will allow us to grow our seat supply, grow our new seat sale, and hence grow our revenue. I think that's the 2-3 reasons that we are able to grow the revenue.
And as we are already into the Q4, what are your expectations from it? How are you planning to close this financial year?
So, Gunjan, I can't give any specific forward guidance, but we had commented on the market that we would do about 30% growth year on year, FY24 to 25. We are already touching about 40% plus for the year. We had committed that we would do about roughly 40,000 new seat addition. We are on track. We are currently about roughly 27,000 seats that are live as of the 9-month period. So we are on track for that as well. I can only comment that H2 is going to be better than H1, and the teams are working hard, and that's all I can comment on.
All right. So with the rising competition in the market, where do you put Awfis exactly? What sets you apart?
So, Gunjan, there are a few different things that set us apart. And I think from the outside, everything looks that, it's the same business model. So it must be co-working, it's all the same, right? I will start off with, one of the key differentiators for us is our supply acquisition. So we have talked about this whole concept of managed aggregation, where the landlord becomes my partner. And essentially, there's no fixed rent, there's a minimum guarantee after a certain period. And then obviously the landlord puts in majority of the capital towards fit out. And then we do a profit share model. Does two things. One, I become asset light, right? And second, it mitigates my risk of a fixed rental. So I think two of the biggest problems that has been in co-working, and where globally, some of these giants have failed around it, we were able to solve with this managed aggregation model. So today, out of the overall portfolio, 65% is in this model. So that's one. Second, we address every type of demand. So about 45% of our business is less than 100 seats, 55% more than 100 seats, right? I have today 3,000 plus client companies who are resident with us, right? So, I mean, today, if you really look at, there are only 7,000 companies on National Stock Exchange. Half of them are my clients today, right? So I think a lot of diversity of clients in that end. Almost 39% of my clients take multi-locations with us, right? So the third and important piece is the network, right? I mean, we have 200 plus locations. The next biggest competitor would be 1/4, 1/5 our size today. And network plays a role because our mobility becomes a big part of our solutioning, where meeting room for a day or a seat for meeting room for an hour becomes a solutioning. As I said, cities like Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, NCR, Hyderabad, Pune, we have 30 plus locations today in each of these cities. Within 15-20 minute driving radius, everywhere you will find an office. So the network becomes important. And finally is the customer experience, right? We are able to deliver consistently. As I said, we have a product for everybody. We have Office Gold and Elite. So we can address every type of customer price point and in every part of the country today. So very, very proud of all of these differentiators.
So the thing is that our budget 2025 just got presented by the finance minister. There were a lot of boosts for the startups. So do you think as more startups means more people looking for flexible workspace? Is there a boost that co-working companies are also going to get by this?
So Gunjan, the reality is if the India macro does well, right,
Yeah.
where our economy continues to do well, commercial real estate had the best year since ever in Indian history. Co-working had the best. Obviously, we are a young industry. If India does well, commercial real estate will do well. I think the Honorable Minister did a lot of things. They not only did a lot of things for the startup ecosystem, they did similar things for the SME ecosystem.
Yeah.
Today, there's a loan guarantee scheme that's available. And they did a lot around the GCC policy, right, for multiple states at a center level, at a state level. So all of this means that service industry is going to grow. When service industry grows, real estate will grow, and hence co-working, which is a subset of it, will grow. So I think very, very positive towards the budget and what the government has done.
So before we wrap this up, you've been an entrepreneur journey for more than a decade. So what were the lessons that you have learned on your way, and what are the key words of wisdom that you want to give to an aspiring entrepreneur?
So, I think my view on this is that, becoming an entrepreneur, was not cool till 2016, right? Because that's when the Startup India event got launched. And I think it became cool in this country to be an entrepreneur. Clearly, I think, but the reasons to, why you want to become an entrepreneur have to be very clear. It cannot be just about I want to disrupt something. It has to be solving a real world problem. There are hundreds of real world problems in India that one can solve. And I think obviously co-working like we solved is one part of it. There are other hundreds of solutions. So I think focus on what you're really solving for and build a business around that. And build a business that ultimately has some path to profitability. Because ultimately, if you are going to go into the public domain, the public markets only reward cash flows and profitability. So build a business that ultimately has a path to profitability. And along the way, I think you have to take care of your employees, your investors, your stakeholders, your customers. If you build a business which takes care of all of this core, you will build a business that is long lasting. So I think those are a few pieces that I would suggest.
Thank you so much, Amit, for joining us on Republic Media Network. It was a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Gunjan, for the opportunity.